Welcome back to the Investor Professor podcast. This is Dr. Ryan Peckham, and this is episode 38, Balance. We're going to talk about how do you manage, your professional life, personal life, all the things that go into it. We'll have a discussion on that. We're going to discuss the market this past week, what a difference a week makes, right? So, market had a great week and about time. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss the Fed decision and all things stock market related. Happy March Madness, everybody. So without further ado, let's get to work. All right. Well, welcome back to the program, everybody. And I said earlier, happy March Madness, one of my favorite times of year. I love the NCAA basketball tournament. In a previous lifetime, I was a decent basketball player, so I always enjoy the NCAA tournament. And it's a little bit like the stock market. When you think about it, people make investments on companies they know nothing about, and it's the same thing with March Madness. They're picking teams they know nothing about. It's always great. I was laughing with my friends earlier this week. We're filling out our brackets, and you convince yourself that somebody can beat a really good team, or you start trying to make these connections on why a team can beat another team, even though you've never seen that team play. And most of the time, you can't even pick out on a map where that team is located from. Right. So, for instance, there's a team this year called Longwood, and they played Tennessee, and it's like, okay, well, maybe, I think Longwood could win, and I don't have any idea. Can't name one player. Don't even know where that university is located. And I'm actually, in the collegiate realm as a professor. I've taught at a number of places, and there's still places I have no idea where they're at. So it's just kind of funny to see how we can self-rationalize when we're looking at our bracket. And then, of course, a day later and after the event happens, you go, man, why did I think that was possible? Like that was a dumb decision, right? So it happens to the best of us, but it is fun to see. It's fun to watch. So, enjoy the tournament. So back to the stock market. I've said over and over and over again on this podcast that the best days in the market happen within 2 weeks of the worst days. And so you see that this past week with the stock market. We had a really good week. The Nasdaq was actually up 6%. Boy, did we need it. I mean, we needed a good week. The market's been oversold for quite some time. And so you finally get this bounce, this relief bounce, if you will. And we'll see if it holds, and that's kind of the key, right? There's still a lot of geopolitical risk, but there is the market has been oversold, and we'll see. So we talked last week about Amazon's 20-for-1 stock split that's going to happen in June, and my goodness, 5 days ago on Monday you could have bought Amazon for $2,800 a share, and now it's $3,200. So $400 a share week for Amazon. And really, this is when, you have to go back and look, did you take some chances? Did you walk into the fire a little bit? We talked last week about trading around a position, buying more shares when a company you really like is lower, even if it's just one share, even if it's two shares, you have to be willing to do that. So the Fed came out this week and they raised interest rates 0.25%. And with the commentary that they could raise them up to six more times by the end of the year, which would put interest rates at about 1.5% or so. So the market's been pricing that in. You saw the market kind of rally on the news that the Fed is going to take inflation a bit more seriously, that they are going to do things to combat it. And so the market welcomed that. And so the Fed also left themselves a little bit of leeway by saying that, obviously they're aware of all the stuff that's happening in the Ukraine and Russia, and that they will take that data, as it comes, and they will use that to change things if they need to. So that's really what you want, is you want a Fed that's being proactive and looking at the necessary data to kind of figure out where things go. But, interest rates rising, I mean, it is going to impact consumers. Obviously, with inflation, we've already seen people change their spending habits. With interest rates moving up, it's going to make things more expensive, right? So credit card companies are going to be able to charge more for interest. Mortgages are going to become more expensive. I believe I saw a news story that mortgage rates are above 4% for the first time in years. And so, that will have the natural tendency to lower consumer spending, which should also lower inflation, right? It's a supply issue, supply and demand issue that we're having here. So we'll have to see. But, a couple of weeks ago, the market looked horrific. Now you have the market looking a little bit better, and all of a sudden, maybe the sun will come out again tomorrow, right? So you always have to take these weeks with a grain of salt and think about what you're going to be doing long term. What companies do you want to be a part of long term? That's always where you want to fall back on. But one of the most important lessons an investor can learn is to watch the market go down and then to watch it come back up, to realize, okay, things are going to be okay. Things are going to be all right. Things are going to work out. I should have bought more shares when things were down. I should have had more confidence in my ability to make a good investment. And so last week when I recorded a podcast, the Nasdaq was down 18% for the year. It had already done, a 20% move is bear market territory, or it is a bear market, which we have had since last November. So last week, it was down 17% for the year. Now it's only down 11%. I say only 11%. I mean, it's still quite painful. But we did have, a really good recovery week. So we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. But at some point, all of the negative news is baked in. And all of the people that have sold have already sold out of a stock. Right? So, it's really more about, again, thinking about your long time horizon and thinking about, okay, I want to stick with this company for the long run, so I'm going to buy more if shares decline. And it's that, going from being a trader to an investor, because there's always going to be traders and there's always going to be investors, but you just have to remember, the longer you stick with it and you stick to your plan and know where you're going, the more likely you are to succeed. So this past week, I was asking some listeners that I know listen quite regularly, what were some things that, they'd enjoy me talking about. And one of the ideas came out about balance. And we've discussed it a little bit before in the past, but, this person was like, well, just talk about balance, career balance, family balance. Like, how do you, not burn too hot in one area of your life? And I thought about this, and the reason I'm decided to talk about it is because I haven't always been great at this, and I'm not saying I'm great at it now. I am 100% not saying that I'm great at it now. And I have said on previous podcasts that sometimes you have to live a little unbalanced to achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve. And that is definitely true. Like, I stand by that statement. Sometimes you got to be a little unbalanced, but you just can't stay there forever. And what I mean by that is, I deal with a lot of college students, and what's funny about college students is that they think that their life is going to get so much easier when they leave college. Like, things are going to get so much more simpler. Hey, I'm not going to have to study anymore. I'm going to have so much free time. And that's going to be it. My life is going to be great once I graduate college. And the mirage of that, as many of you who are listening to this know, is that after you graduate college or whatever, maybe if you didn't go to college, but that's when the start gun goes off for life, and you start feeling the pressure of, oh my goodness, I need to have a career. I got to start working on a family. I got to, That's kind of like when the race begins, so to speak, and you start feeling this pressure, especially if you're seeing how other people are doing, of, oh my goodness, like I'm falling behind. You can look up lists and see when Warren Buffett became a millionaire or when this person did this, and you kind of start comparing yourself to those around you, and you can start to feel pretty overwhelmed because you feel like you're already behind before the game even got started. And most people in their 20s are trying to get back to the standard of living they had with their parents. And so that can be a dangerous game too, because let's say maybe your parents are in their 50s and they've spent all this time, working on their career, working on things, and you think it just happened overnight. I see that too with a lot of younger kids who think, okay, I'm going to graduate from college and I'm going to become a CEO of a company because that's what my parents did, or that's what my parents do. And they don't realize that it took their parents 25 years to get that position. But of course, when you're a child, you don't really realize the amount of time and effort that your parents have been putting in. You don't really become aware, so to speak, of their career until much later when you're maybe 17 or 18, and maybe they're already 20 years into their career. So you get kind of this distortion of how long do these things actually take? And so time and time again, if you look at decision sciences or goals, working on your goals, we overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do in 5 to 10 years. But we have this problem where it's hard for us to think that far out because we want things to happen instantaneously. And then we look on social media and we see things that are happening and this person's wherever they're at. And we think, man, I got to get with it. And then of course, when you're younger, you go through these stages where all of a sudden everybody is getting married at a certain time. And then you'll move on a couple of years and everybody will be having a baby. And so you feel like, okay, man, I'm not where I need to be. And so this concept of how do I balance all of this? It's not just how do you balance your time and the goals that you have, but it's also how do you balance expectations? And you have to realize that everybody has a different starting point. And you also have to realize that everybody has a different thing that they picture as far as what they want for their life, right? Some people want maybe a very great professional career, and other people want to be a great mom and take care of their family and support everybody else. And so you have to think about, okay, what do I want for my life? And you're not going to have all the answers, but at some point you're going to know where things, what is something that's important to you, right? You're going to know where one area that you want to be. And so we talk about this podcast, I talk about not just investing in the market, but investing in yourself mentally, physically, and professionally. Right? Because when you invest in all these different areas, not only does it keep you a little bit more balanced, but I feel like they all feed off of each other, right? If you're eating better and working out and sleeping better, you're going to be better prepared in your professional life, which is going to allow you to be able to do better there. Hopefully you'll be able to make more money, and then you'll also be able to invest more. Because really, your career, your ability to make money is going to impact, are you going to be able to save and invest, right? So you got to invest in yourself first before you're going to be able to invest in the market. But you also run the trap of, if you spend all your time working on things, your professional life, you're going to burn out. And you definitely don't want to burn out in your 20s because it is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so you have to consider that as well. You have to think about, okay, I got to be in it for the long haul. I'm not going to be able to achieve everything I want to achieve in my life by the time I'm 28 years old. It's just not going to happen. I mean, sure, there's, lightning strikes and sometimes you find lightning in a bottle, and we read about those stories that happens to people. But for the majority of the population, it's just not going to happen. So in the the open spirit of honesty, one of my biggest regrets is that I've said it on the podcast again. I mean, I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I didn't take any vacations in my 20s, like none. Didn't really go anywhere. Was newly married. We were going through graduate school, working. I had a job that I didn't like, which at the time I thought was a bad thing. It's one of those blessings in disguises, right? Me not liking my first job out of college, working as an engineer, it made the risk level of switching over to investments and finance basically nothing. There was no risk there because I didn't like the job anyways. So I wasn't giving up a future career. I mean, sometimes, if you have a career that is not your, dream, but it's good enough that it's paying your bills and it's making you comfortable, that's a dangerous place to be because you are giving up something. I really wasn't giving up anything except for, a decent salary. But, I didn't go anywhere in my 20s. Like I didn't go anywhere. And at the time, I didn't understand the value of, scheduling a vacation 9 months from now. And the benefit of that is that when you put something on the books like that, it gives you something to look forward to. But it gives you something to look forward to, and it also forces you to take a break. And so as I've gotten older, I've understood this. And of course, as I've had children, I understand it even more because, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll notice that I went to Colorado, took my family skiing and snowboarding a couple weeks ago. But when I look at that, I have a daughter who's 12, another one who's 10. I look at that as I got 6 spring breaks left before they go to college, right? So I don't have a lot of time. It seems like I do, but I really don't. In the grand scheme of things, I really, really don't. And so, it's either I do it now and I commit to it, or I'm never getting that time back. And that's the way that this works, unfortunately. You're never able to get that time back. And so you're never able to be 24 again. You're never able to be 27 again. You're never able to be 30 again, right? Time, it moves on. And as Ferris Bueller once said, right? Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop to look around every once in a while, you could miss it. Kind of butchered that, but it sounded better in my head. But it's true. And you see this, I see this with people that have, worked their whole life and they retire, and we kind of promise ourselves, okay, if I don't do this today, I promise myself 10 years from now that I'll do it. But that's not always the case, right? You don't always get that chance. And one thing I've really noticed, especially when it comes to travel, since I'm talking about that, is that people don't just decide to start traveling internationally when they're 75 years old. If you've ever traveled internationally, it's hard, right? It's tiring. It's costly. It's hard. I mean, it's a great mental workout, especially if you go somewhere where you don't speak the language. I mean, it's not easy. So you can't just, you're not just going to decide one day to do that. And it's not just travel. I mean, that's the important part of taking care of your mental health. It's the important part of sleeping enough, which I didn't learn that till my mid-30s when my body was basically like, I did my PhD between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And then about the age of 35, my body goes, nope, we're not doing this anymore. You start learning some of these lessons the hard way, but you do have to figure out a way to find balance. And there is no formula that I can give you that's going to help you do that. Unfortunately, you got to come up with the formula for yourself. And so the things in your life that are important to you that you want to be working on, spending more time with your loved ones, spending time finding a loved one, right? The things that you want to be working on. Some of them might be uncomfortable, but you have to figure out what's the right balance for you. And for some of us, there's a lot of type A's that listen to this program. And there's a lot of driven people that listen to this program. It's just the nature of the beast. I mean, people who are not type A's don't really care about their finances a whole lot. They're not working on trying to save and invest and get ahead of the game. It's just the way that it works. And so even for me, I have to be careful. I mean, it's Saturday morning. I'm recording a podcast. I knew when I started this, it's just my personality. I'm ridiculously persistent. And so when I start doing something, I commit. That's one of the reasons why I was like, I don't know if I want to do this or not, and then I told myself, all right, 50 episodes, we'll see how it's going. I'll reassess it. And so sometimes you got to put in your own kind of backstop in there and say, okay, I'm going to work on this for so long, and then I'm going to see how it's going and decide if I want to keep going. And it's the same thing. So when you're looking at your goals and you're looking at the things that are important to you, you have to find that balance, right? You have to be the one who comes up with a solution for yourself and says, okay, is this worth it? Is the amount of time and effort I'm putting into this, is it worth it? At what cost am I working on this, right? Because everything has an opportunity cost, not just your investments, right? If you invest in Apple, that means you can't take that money and invest somewhere else. Well, it's the same thing with your time, right? If you are putting a lot of effort and time into one certain goal, what is that taking time away from, right? If you're putting too much of your time and effort into your professional goals, that is going to take time away from family or finding a family or your health or, whatever it is. We all have stories of people who are very successful in one area of their life, but they're lacking in a lot of other areas of their life, right? So they have, a lot of success in one area, but maybe they're alone and their health isn't doing well. And there's all these other problems that they're having. And so, you have to figure out a way to find what works for you. And everybody's what works for them is a little bit different, but you have to be able to figure that out and come up with a solution that you are comfortable with and that you can live with. It's also important to be mature enough to realize that this is constantly going to be a moving target for you. It's not something that one day you go, okay, I'm well balanced and this is really, I got it. Because things keep moving, challenges come into your life. You have different things, different stages of your life. And so I think it's always a challenge for us. And you go through kind of good times and bad times where, you have to be a little bit unbalanced, but then you got to be able to realize, okay, I've been living a little unbalanced. I got to get the train back on the tracks. And so it's going to be something that is going to constantly be with you, but that's okay. You have to be proactive and be, mentally tough enough to be able to handle it and to be able to recognize it. So I hope that helps you. I'm not sure it does. I know a lot of times we want a quick answer. That's definitely not a quick answer. And it's something that is, like I just said, you constantly have to be working on it and thinking about it. So make sure that you stop and enjoy some things. Put some things on your calendar. If you work all the time, put some things on your calendar that you schedule out 6 months from now, right? If you want to spend more time with your significant other, find a significant other, put some things down that force you to do those things that make you a little bit uncomfortable. Like I use my workouts that's kind of my mental clarity. I meditate. I do these things to help me, think about and stay a little bit more balanced. I just can't tell you enough how important those things are. Are you getting enough sleep? Right? One of the main things that pops up, one of the main factors that pops up on people making bad decisions, lack of sleep comes up all the time. So are you getting enough sleep? Are you exercising? Are you doing these things that we have discussed? When you do those things, you have more mental focus and you're able to make better decisions and be a lot more objective when you're looking at your own self and kind of the balance you have in your life. So I hope that's helpful for you. I am looking to bring on interviews, people who are meditation experts, nutrition experts, physical fitness experts, I got a really cool interview next week for next week's episode if it works out. So tease that a little bit. But I hope this helps you. I hope you realize that you're not alone, that everybody struggles with this. It's not something that anybody ever just kind of figures out. But maybe you can work on that this week, be a little bit more proactive in your thought process and trying to achieve that balance. So I hope this was helpful. I appreciate your support as always, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time.